Good afternoon. Hi, I'm Jen Bonet with the Creative Coast, and welcome to today's Lunchtime Topic. We have with us today Tyler Edic, who is with Crate Marketing, has done a lot of work with Visit Savannah, and has most recently been helping the Creative Coast on a part-time basis with all of our video work. And so I know that there's a lot of people looking to create better videos themselves in a pandemic. And so we asked Tyler to give tips and tricks and best practices around video work such that we can all do a better job of promoting ourselves and our businesses online through video. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Tyler. Thank you, Tyler.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Basically, things changed with COVID, and what I'll do is I'll kind of walk through the way things used to be with how we produce video, and then how we kind of adapted with sourcing content from our users and our audience. And then I'll give some tips about ways you can level up your video, and depending on your budget, and a lot of people are on a tight budget, also part of going through COVID. And then I will open it up to questions. So in the normal days, what I would do is I'd get together with my creative team with Visit Savannah or with a client, and we would find out what the goal of the video is. We would figure out a shot list. We would come up with a script. We would do a loose storyboard. And then I do everything from the pre-production, the writing the script, to the production, shooting, having the camera gear, using the gimbal, the tripod, and then post-production as well. So I'm going to show one sample first to show what a traditional brand video would look like for us. Here we go. So that's obviously a more produced video, and then with COVID, we had to adhere to social distancing, and a lot of businesses were shut down. So we were faced with, all right, how are we going to produce video content without being able to actually go to locations and actually shoot and edit the traditional route? So what we did was on our social channels, we opened up a poll to our audience, and we have social audiences on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and we said, could you please share your favorite Savannah memory? And our goal with Visit Savannah is to basically share aspirational content for Savannah, so that even though people can't necessarily come here and get the full Savannah experience right now, once Savannah starts to open up, we want to stay top of mind, and we want to have a lot of touch points for our audience. So after we had posted, hey, please share your favorite Savannah memory, I downloaded, screenshotted all the images, and then we produced a video called We Ask You to Share Your Favorite Savannah Memories. I'm going to share that one now. Here we go. Okay, so what's cool about that particular project was I was editing that at home in my pajama bottoms. No, really though, it was cool because there's kind of this loop of we're asking our audience for feedback, and then for participating in our posts, they get rewarded by being featured in our video. So that's kind of how we've developed an audience and a following. Um, and it's just another example of when we have limitations. That's kind of what video makers do. We just adapt, and we find new ways to tell stories based on the limitations. So before I show any other examples, I'm going to give you some tips of how to produce videos from home. That last video, I actually did not manually animate those still photographs. What I did was I went to a website called Motion Array, and I downloaded a template, and then which I can drop in the chat, and that site will come back up again. And I downloaded a template, and then I was able to just drag and drop my photos and create that video from there. And there are a lot of sites that have templates for your basic video editing programs. There's also some free editing programs online, such as DaVinci Resolve. And when we get to the question portion of this, you guys can ask me if you want specific advice on gear or specific software or anything like that. And then there's a lot of other sites like Canva that also allow you to create really beautiful, professional looking content, even if you're not a professional video editor or video producer. My whole career, it's been a matter of producing a lot with a little. So learning how to do everything from writing to post-production, but a lot of times you have multiple people working in those different roles. So you don't need to be an expert overnight. Some little tips to make your at-home videos a little better. First off, a lot of people are consuming content, and a lot more people want video. So to make it more professional looking, you should have professional sound, professional light. If you don't have a big lighting kit, you can face a window. That's one easy tip. If you're facing like perpendicular to your window, you just face your window, put your camera there, and that creates a nice even wash of light over your face. And then for sound, even though I'm in a loud room right now, I have a nice professional desktop microphone. I'm using a Blue Yeti, which I can also drop below. There's a lot of nice, affordable desktop mics from around $100 to $150 on the high end. And that's really going to up the quality of your sound. You can also use AirPods. You can use a headphone that has a little microphone on the wire. Anything that other than just your laptop mic or your webcam microphone is going to make a big difference in the quality of the sound. It seems obvious, but it is helpful to just find the easiest thing to do is just find a quiet place. If you don't have a microphone, if you don't have a nice webcam, just go off into a quiet room. Savannah is notorious for cicada sounds, also trolleys going by, trucks on Bay Street. So it is difficult for me always to find good audio. So I have to compensate for that by having good microphones. If you don't have a big window and you don't have access to a big window and you need artificial light, there's a couple different types of lights you can buy. You're looking for what's called soft light, and what defines light as soft is it's large relative to the subject. So it could be a small light with a big diffuser in front of it. It could be, again, a big window, or it could be what's known as a beauty light or a ring light that sits over the top of your camera. You can just Google ring light or beauty light, and they go over your iPhone. They go over if you're shooting on a DSLR, they'll go right onto your tripod. They'll mount right in front of your camera. And the idea is when light is hitting directly on your subject, it actually goes into the little wrinkles and it makes you look younger. So that's why they call it a beauty light. It's the most aesthetically forgiving type of light. the other thing, there's other nerdy camera photography stuff, like the rule of thirds. Like right now I've got my frame set up, so I'm kind of in 1/3, my camera's over here, and then also there's some lines. The other way I could do is I could center myself in the frame and stare directly at my camera and talk to my audience. If you want to drive a subject home, you can look right at your audience. But that makes sense in scenarios where you're trying to get a lot of impact for your video, or you're trying to speak directly to your audience and not necessarily tell a story like I'm doing today. The other thing is really just having a plan, and that's all your pre-production. That's having your shot list, having your script, having, it's really whatever. You don't have to overcomplicate things. You just have to know what you're going to do going into, whether it's for your business or for a client or for a family or friend. Just having the story that you're trying to tell, what you're trying to accomplish in mind before you go to shoot and before you go to edit, it saves so much time, because when you get back to whether you're editing on your phone in Premiere Rush, or on your device in Premiere After Effects or Final Cut X or DaVinci Resolve, I'm just listing off some programs here, the less you have to process, and the less footage if you shoot a 45-minute interview, it's going to take you a lot longer to edit that down into a 3-minute video than if you just shot for 10 minutes or so. So really knowing what points you want to touch on before you shoot is going to save you. We call that shoot to edit. So that's really just planning. The other thing is know where you're going to distribute this. If it's going to go on, you may have noticed that the UGC video, user-generated content video that I shared earlier, did not have a lot of views on YouTube. But it's really because YouTube was not the intended distribution platform for that video. That really actually did perform very well on Facebook. And we also did our call to action on Facebook. So that's, again, like kind of the feedback loop. So we put it on YouTube, but it's not necessarily intended for YouTube. If it's going to be shown on IGTV, Instagram TV, you got to think about shooting vertically. You got to think about if it's going to go on your Instagram quilt, it's going to got to be under 60 seconds. If it's going to go on IGTV, it's got to be longer than 60 seconds. Now we have Reels, we can do in-app editing. It's like there's so many options out there. But you just have to plan ahead, know where you want it to go, know what the audience is, and then test and measure your results. You can look at your analytics. You can see how certain posts perform or certain videos perform well or underperform. And then if people like what you're doing, then do more of that. So basically get the feedback and then adapt what you're doing from there. I do have a question from Sandy, and I also have glasses. I will get to your question in just a little bit. Let's see. The other tools, the other like really simple things that seem obvious but are pretty simple are just having a stable camera. Sounds simple, but when you're holding an iPhone and you're walking, especially on ballast stones on River Street or downstairs or through a square, it's gonna jog the camera, and that's what's going to happen is it's going to take people out of the story. It's going to pull people away from the intention of the video because they're distracted by a technicality of how the video is produced. So I recommend having a tripod. You can get those as cheap as like $25 at Walmart or Best Buy or B&H. You can get a nicer tripod that have like fluid head, fancy, but it's less about the gear and it's more about telling an engaging story. And if you do want a stabilizer for your iPhone or your phone, and you can actually mount a microphone on top of it, you can get the DJI Osmo 3. So DJI Osmo Mobile 3, I'm dropping that in the comments. It's around $100 to $150, and it is a godsend. It'll stabilize your shots. It'll allow you to move around. We use it for our Facebook Lives, and it has made a big difference in how long people will stay with us because we're not distracting them with the technical details of the video. They're immersed in Wormslow or Forsyth Park or whatever. Then, one other note is headphones, using headphones is important because Zoom has built-in compression and voice reduction and noise reduction. And the reason is because we've got 9 people on this call. We have 50 people on other calls. Everyone has their microphones on. So Zoom is constantly having to listen to the noise that's happening and then decide who's the speaker and reduce the background noise in everyone else's feeds. And so it's constantly having to fight a noise floor. And so when you don't have a microphone, it's actually going to be hearing the audio, or when you don't have headphones, it's going to be hearing the audio from your computer and then picking that up into the microphone and creating this feedback loop, just like when somebody at a concert puts their guitar next to the microphone, you get this squeaking noise. That's called feedback. And you don't hear that squeaking noise, but it greatly reduces the quality of your voice if the microphone is picking up the noise from the speaker. So basically, if you put headphones on, it'll actually improve the quality of your mic and your audio and your voice. And then finally, traditionally for the last couple years, people have very short attention spans on Facebook. They're scrolling quickly. It's hard to capture people's attention. We've been producing content that's typically around 90 seconds to 2 minutes, but with COVID and with the proliferation of podcasts and more longer form videos on YouTube, such as today's Lunch and Learn, people are growing to enjoy and appreciate and hunger for longer form content, and especially something on a consistent schedule like this, where they know that every week there's going to be a 2-hour podcast or sometimes you can see podcasts that are like 5 hours long and you're like, I don't have time to watch a 5-hour movie, but then I can, in the car or getting ready for work or at my desk on my lunch break, whatever, I could listen to a 2-hour or 5-hour podcast. And they're great because you can really go deep on content, and really for Visit Savannah, you can tell really engaging long form stories that weren't necessarily in a couple years ago. So to shorten that down, general rule of thumb is keep it short for social, because people do not have long attention span, but don't be afraid to try longer form content. And then that is it for me for notes. I do have some questions here. Sandy says, do you have any suggestions for tools that act like a teleprompter? There are teleprompters on that you can get that are pretty affordable. They sit on top of your tripod, and then your camera, whether that's your phone or your DSLR or actual cine camera, sits behind a piece of glass, and then you can just have an iPad that sits there and reflects. I don't know any specific brand names, but I can get back to you, and I'll just put this out there now. Feel free to connect with me on any social media. I'm all over the internet. Just search Tyler Edic and feel free to connect with me. I will answer questions. I will get to you a good, better, best selection of cheapest prompter that I believe is still good, middle of the road, and then high end based on your budget. And then I have issues with my bifocals. If I look at the camera, I have a weird tilt in my head. I don't know how to solve that, but I have personally gone through the issue of having to get glasses for the first time in my life in 2020, and then pressing the camera up to my eye, and then I'm like, okay, I'm just going to take these things off and do my best with. So that's just, I think we're just getting old. So I don't have a good solution for
So
you.
I have a solution, Tyler.
Yeah, what's that?
Because I had progressive, so one prescription up top and one prescription on the bottom. I don't use them when I'm doing videos online. These are cheap drugstore readers with just the reading prescription, and that's what I use when I'm doing Zoom or doing stuff online, because then I'm not doing that whole like looking down, right? And yeah, it's not attractive. So buy a cheap pair of readers with the bottom prescription, and you'll be great.
There you go.
Sandy, I'm both farsighted and nearsighted.
I can see close. I can't see far, but it does help to have. I get headaches if I don't have mine on.
Yeah, the other part's coming in a few years, by the way.
Yeah, it's on its way. My mom's like she needs them too, so I'm sure that's coming. One note is, if you are noticing you're getting a lot of glare, this is a nice little hack or a quick tip. If you're noticing a lot of glare in your glasses, what you can do is, if you're using artificial light, you raise the light up. And then if you're using a window or something that you can't adjust the height of your light, all you do is you take your glasses, or if it's somebody you're interviewing, you say, hey, can you take the back of your glasses and lift them up off your ears just a little bit? And then it creates a tilt on the glasses. And that actually will, and it's not perfect, but that will actually help reduce glare and not be super noticeable to the audience and to the camera. So, okay. And then Jen mentioned the cheap readers. And then Zeke says, fantastic. Okay, thank you, Zeke. Sandy says, thank you. And Elise says, if you were starting from scratch and investing in some equipment, needing to be budget conscious, where would you recommend beginning? So that is, people ask me, I get this pretty often, like, hey, what camera should I get? And I basically always start with, what's your budget? Because cameras can be, as, you know, if you have an iPhone 11X, like, you're good for most stuff. You can create some really good content with just a cell phone nowadays. It's insane. I look at like my earliest cameras. They had a high 8 VHS tape, and then they moved to the mini DV, and you had to sit there and adjust your footage real time, and it was standard definition. Now everything's 4K, slow motion. It's obviously, iPhones don't have like a huge sensor, so you can't necessarily put those up on a billboard, but they're really great for social. If people are going to be watching on a Facebook on a phone, then you can shoot it on a phone. Basically, that's a nice little rule of thumb. But you could spend $1,000 and get a pretty decent DSLR setup or mirrorless setup, or you could spend $10,000 or $50,000 or $100,000, depending on the level of how serious you are and how much basically you've got allocated for your equipment budget. But I recommend starting, especially if you're starting out or you're building a new team, or you have a new team member, start with the basics. Start with a solid body, one good zoom lens, and then a tripod. And then you can build out your kit from there. I've made the mistake a couple times of getting a couple cheap lenses. I've gotten like a 50 millimeter and 18 to 55. These are all just numbers, jargon, blah, blah, blah. And then like a long zoom, 75 to 300, but they're all kind of not that good of lenses. And so you sacrifice image quality. And so what I've realized is what I should have done, instead of buying 3 cheap lenses, is just spend the money on one good lens that goes like 24 to 240, something like that. I can shoot wide, I can zoom in and shoot the Golden Gate Bridge. So that's what I recommend for lenses. The other thing is microphones. You can get little pocket recorders and little lavalier mics online for like $75. That makes a huge difference. You can get the desktop mics for 100 to 150. It also depends on, there's a lot of deciding factors, but I say start with your budget and work backward from there. Nowadays, any of the Canon 70D, Canon 80D, those are great starter cameras that are probably around like $500 for the body. Get one good lens, get a cheap tripod, and you'll be on the road. And then you can just start replacing your gear and moving up from there. Do the smaller mics work on iPhones? Yes, except the iPhone, that's Ashley, thank you. The new iPhone removed the headphone jack. So I think you need the lightning adapter that will go into an 8 millimeter headphone jack. And then you can use, there's a microphone company called Rode, and that's called the Rode SmartLav Plus. And I will drop that in the chat here. And that is a really solid microphone for around $80. And you're welcome, Anna. And so, yeah. And you can also, there's also top mounted they call them shotgun microphones, because they shoot in one direction. They pick up audio from one direction instead of like a traditional, what they call condenser mic, that is picking up sound from all directions. You can mount those on top of your camera. You can mount them on top of your iPhone. You can mount them on top of your gimbal, and you can get better audio from there. let's see, does anyone have any other questions about storytelling, gear, software, any other problems you've been facing with producing content that you've
So
just been
Tyler,
frustrated with?
what would be like an entry-level person's editing software for once you've recorded the video and now you need to clean up a few things? What's the easiest entry point for somebody to start to learn? I've seen all sorts of crazy software that does it, but kind of for a newbie, what would be the easiest to learn?
Yeah, back in the day, I learned on Windows Movie Maker, but I don't think that's even a thing anymore. But Apple has really done a good job, like they do with all their products, of really simplifying their software. So they've got their really, really basic entry-level editing software. It's called iMovie. And then even their professional grade editing software is called Final Cut Pro X. They kind of got some heat from the industry when they went from Final Cut Pro 7 to Final Cut Pro X because they dumbed down and removed a lot of the features that allowed you to customize your edit. So it's simple, but it still allows a lot for the average consumer. You can also use, if you're a little more familiar with NLE editing timelines, you can use a free program called DaVinci Resolve. And I can drop that below. And that one is originally started as a color correction software and then has gone to become like a free open source. It's really picking up momentum in the industry. So really the three standards right now are Avid, Adobe Premiere, and then DaVinci Resolve is kind of on its way up. And then let's see, there's a couple. Marianne says OpenShot is a nice, free and simple editing program. I have not used it, but I have heard of it. And there are a lot out there. There are definitely a lot out there. But the main thing is I do for gear or software is just read reviews. You can learn a lot on YouTube. There's some paid sites as well, but you can learn a lot on YouTube. Ashley says, do you feel standing and walking during a shoot is better or sitting and speaking to the camera? For me, the shoot would be me recording myself to talk about our products and services. It's kind of like it depends, like everything. There's never a clear-cut answer. If you're trying to convey movement and moving forward, and like our company is, moving forward and we're taking the next step, then you actually want to probably literally take the next step. If you're recording yourself, that's hard, especially because you're probably going to have a camera on a tripod, and then standing in front of it, you're going to have to frame up the shot. You're going to have to make sure it's recording and you've got, good sound and everything else. So if I'm recording myself, I typically just sit and have the tripod there. If you have a camera that you can flip the screen around, that's super helpful too. Or you can get like an external monitor. That's a problem with camera stuff, is the second you get one thing, then you want the next thing and the next, and it never ends. There's a lot of ways you can customize your setup. So I would say the story is the most important thing. The content itself is the most important thing over the production value, the quality of your camera, how expensive your gear is, first and foremost. Then if you have somebody that can, hold a gimbal and walk in front of you, then you can start to add motion into your shot. You can start to, do more like advanced camera movements, pans, tilts, zooms, dollies, that whole thing. And but you basically just start. Don't think that everyone here can produce video today. And you just start learning and you start trying things. And then once you've mastered how to shoot a video of yourself talking to your clients, then you go, okay, for the next one, I want to try this. And that's what's fun about it for me. It's like every day we're trying something new, and we're trying to improve the quality of our videos constantly. So yeah, you're welcome. Very, very welcome. So let's see. Does anyone have any other roadblocks they've run into or hesitations of, I often get people that say, I'm not ready to produce video. I just don't feel confident enough yet. And then and I kind of tell them like, well, when I started, I just picked up a camera and went. It was before I went to school or before I learned anything. And now with YouTube and with how good cameras are, creating content is easier than ever. And there's no real like the only bad way to produce a video is not producing one at all. So just give it a shot and don't be afraid, basically.
Tyler, I have a question.
Yeah. Kate, what's up?
It's Kate. I learned from one of my marketing mentors, Lisa Kanda, the importance of captions on videos for SEO.
Mm-hmm.
And so the one kind of roadblock I hit was on Instagram. And maybe someone can fill me in. There was no way for me to upload subtitles. And so what I've discovered this week is a software called Capwing, I think, and it automatically puts the subtitles. You upload the video, then you upload your SRT file, and it automatically uploads the captions. So when you post to Instagram, the captions are just there, which wouldn't work for other platforms if you're trying to get the SEO out of it, I'm assuming. But is there any kind of software that does it all in that regard? Like I haven't dove that deep into like Apple's software that just automatically puts the subtitles on there, so you don't have to go use this other program. Do you know of any that do that?
Yes and no. One thing, do you mind sharing Capwing in the comment section, and then I can check it out for next time? And Facebook does automatically generated captions. They're not bad. They're decent. You have to probably go in and like make sure your punctuation's correct and everything. Same thing with YouTube. Instagram does not. I have not used that software you're talking about or any other, but I have heard of people using YouTube's automatically generated captions to then copy the captions from YouTube and then put them onto the page on which the video is embedded, which is good for SEO, having that rich text in the body of the page where the video is embedded, because Google doesn't know what the content of the video is unless you tell it. So there's also another paid tool, but it's pretty affordable. Back in the day, it had to be somebody listening to your conversation where people are talking over each other, and it was pretty expensive. It took a long time, and now we have AI. So there's a cool tool called Temi, Temi, and I'm going to drop that one below as well. And it is AI that does automatic transcription, and it's 10 cents a minute. And it's Temi.com. It's 10 cents a minute, 25 cents a minute. So the price is going up, but it's still pretty affordable. Sandy says Otter.io is another free transcription tool. It works fantastic. Have not used it, but I always love to learn about new tools. And when Adobe Premiere that I use, what I'll do is I will take a lot of times if it's a pre-scripted video, I already have the transcript because I've cued my actors on what to say, and then I just copy paste that into Premiere. And then Premiere now allows me to drag my captions, and it locks within the grid like it has always done in Illustrator and Photoshop, but now it works in Premiere as well. And then I'll just chop up my caption, and then I'll overlay it on my video, and I can add a drop shadow or a box around that automatically. So Premiere has done a lot in that department recently. And the other, I'm going to go back to Motion Array really quick. Motion Array is my site for, there's a lot of sites out there like Adobe Stock, but my site for stock After Effects and Real Premiere templates, stock video, stock photos, stock music, and it does other things as well, but I basically, anytime I need to fill in the gaps, I use Motion Array, and I dropped that earlier in the chat. So that's definitely a super powerful tool. It is paid, but it's unlimited downloads, and it's all royalty free. So that is another factor that people are like, oh, can I use Don't Stop Believing? And I'm like, you can, but once you put it on YouTube, Journey's gonna take that down, or Sony Music, or whoever owns it. So Okay, Sandy, before you said which video editing tools help you repurpose the video depending on which platform you want to re-upload to. I use Premiere. Um, we've cut stuff for IGTV vertically in app, and you lose captions, you lose titles, things reformat weird. So we've actually just started to upload our horizontal videos either native onto IGTV, and then they show up on the Instagram quilt, and then people can click on it, they can turn their phone. It is an extra step, but ultimately a lot of times since we're shooting horizontal, it's going to just look better horizontal. There might, Premiere does use automatic software to center the subject nowadays. I have not actually messed with that yet. So I don't have a great answer for you there. Sandy says Zyotag is another tool that makes videos searchable. Okay. And it was created by a friend. Cool. I'll have to check them out. Thankfully, thank you everyone for dropping these in the chat, because I have to stay up on the latest trends or else I become outdated very quickly, as video and media, as you all know, is evolving very rapidly. So I think that's it. I like to just talk and talk and talk and talk. So let me know if there's any other questions, but I hope this has been helpful so far.
So yeah, I'd like to give a quick sales for Creative Coast, actually, right? So I am in our new podcast / Zoom room here at the Creative Coast offices that can be booked by members. And I'm going to choose no virtual background so you can see I am sitting in front of a green screen here at the Creative Coast. I can show you, we've added a light in here. So this is me lit, this is me not lit, right? We've added some soundproofing on the walls, both behind the green screen and on the side wall. And then of course we've got our light over here, and it does, the pedestal for the light does allow you to connect a phone to it, so you could manage your phone right there. And there's actually a clicker that turns your phone on and off. We've got a blue microphone and a headset here for use for people that use this room. And I'm staring at a 40-inch television screen that's sitting on the table because I'm trying to decide if the television screen is too big for the room. I don't think it is. It will go on the wall, but I'm also have to figure out how high, because I want you to feel, I don't want you looking up at the television while you're videoing yourself from your computer that's down. So trying to figure all that out. But hopefully early next week, the television will be on the wall, and this room it will be 100% ready to go. As you can tell, I'm already using it today. I found that I have to lift it's best if my laptop's up about 1.5 inches off the desk. So I'm going to buy a laptop stand today. And you know, just knowing that everybody's on Zoom and everybody's into podcasts and things like that. Having a podcast room at the Creative Coast has been a long-term thing, a long-time goal of ours, and it's finally really close to fruition. And so, you know, we have great internet here downtown, fiber into the building, and you know, so if people are interested, please reach out to me at Jen at the Creative Coast, and we can talk a little bit about membership and how you access this space if you're interested.
Has the giveaway ended?
So the giveaway is for the Choose SAV campaign. Yeah. So we also, Kate, are you still on the line? You want to talk about the campaign?
Sure. Yeah, I'm here. Sorry, y'all, my video, I can put my video on, but I just took my sweatshirt off, so my hair's gonna be crazy. Oh, okay. Hi, everybody. Yeah, so the Choose Savannah competition or social media contest, basically we have been posting a series of videos shot by Tyler and Raz, who's not on here. And the campaign is to ignite the excitement for living in Savannah and choosing Savannah as a place to call home based on, you know, we've got a rich food scene, we've got a great lifestyle and nightlife and lots of arts and culture here and diversity. So we wanted to really highlight that and put that out there. And we are encouraging others to share that as well by creating their own video that you would then post to your social media, and basically you would say why you love living and working in Savannah, and use the hashtag Choose Savannah. There are a few other requirements. You can post on Twitter, you can post on Facebook and Instagram, because that's where we can track, and it's all based on likes and shares. So the more likes and shares you get, the more likely you are to win the contest. Whoever has the most likes and shares will win either all brand new podcasting equipment. So we've got a snowball mic in there. We've got a backdrop with a stand that you can hook up the backdrop to. And then we also have a ring light. So that's the podcast equipment. I think it's like 200 and something, 67 or 37. I'm getting them backwards. Dollar value. And then Jen Jen is offering up her Brooklyn on Broughton Street for a 2-night stay. So it's perfect for a staycation if you want to go downtown for a night and have a good time, or if you know somebody who's coming in town or wants to visit, that would be a great thing to have in your back pocket. And you can see pictures of Brooklyn on Broughton and the podcasting equipment at thecreativecoast.org/choose Savannah. I can put it in here in the chat as well. And that's it. Jen, did I miss anything?
Just about the incentives. So we really launched this campaign to promote the remote technology worker incentives. So if you all have friends that live other places than Savannah today, and you encourage them to relocate here, we can pay up to $2,000 of their relocation fees, as long as they're a remote tech worker with 3 years experience and they're moving more than 50 miles. And when they fill out the application for SEDA, Savannah Economic Development Authority, they put your name in the who referred you, you can get $500 cash when they get their relocation fees. And so the hashtag Choose Savannah campaign is kind of a grassroots effort of the Creative Coast to promote the remote worker incentives for SEDA.